Magenta is not in the rainbow. There is no single wavelength of light that makes magenta. Your brain saw a gap in reality and colored it in. If you look at a rainbow, you will see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. But you will not see magenta. Not because magenta is shy, because magenta is not there. There is no single wavelength of light that produces magenta. It is not sitting quietly between blue and violet. It is not hiding under red. It is not waiting for better lighting. Magenta is something your brain makes, which means one of the most familiar colors in your life is, scientifically speaking, a very convincing guess. Let's start with the rainbow. A rainbow is not just a pretty weather apology after rain. It is light getting split apart. White light contains many wavelengths. A wavelength is basically the size of a wave of light energy. Longer waves look red to us. Shorter waves look violet. Everything in between becomes the rest of the rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. That is the visible spectrum, the slice of light your eyes can detect. Red has a longer wavelength, violet has a shorter wavelength. The rest falls somewhere between them. So far, reality is behaving itself. Now here's where it gets weird. Magenta does not have a place on this line. There is no magenta wavelength. You cannot point to one spot on the visible spectrum and say, there, that is magenta. You can do that with a lot of colors. Not this one. And yet, you have seen magenta your entire life. You've seen it in flowers, clothes, logos, phone screens, candy wrappers, bad nightclub lighting, very confident lipstick. And so if magenta is not on the spectrum, why can you see it? Because your eyes do not work like a camera. And your brain does not work like a window. Your brain is not just showing you the world, it is building a version of the world from signals. Sometimes those signals are clear, sometimes they are incomplete. And sometimes your brain looks at the information coming in, quietly pulls out a crayon, and says, I know what to do. To understand why, we need to go inside the eye. At the back of your eye is the retina. That is the thin layer of tissue that receives light. Inside the retina are special cells called photoreceptors, basically light-detecting cells. You have rods, which help with low-light vision, and you have cones, which help with color. Most humans have three main types of cone cells. One responds most strongly to short wavelengths, which helps with blue-violet light. One responds most strongly to medium wavelengths, which helps with green light. One responds most strongly to long wavelengths, which helps with red light. Short, medium, long. Those are the three main signals your brain compares to create color. Your brain does not receive red or blue directly from the outside world. It receives signals from these cones, compares them, and then creates the experience of color. Color is not just out there. Color is what happens when light meets biology and your brain starts editing. Now imagine your eye receives red light and violet blue light at the same time. And that is a strange combination. Because on the visible spectrum, red and violet sit on opposite ends. They do not touch. They do not meet. They are the two people at the party standing on opposite walls pretending they did not come together. Normally, if your brain sees light from nearby parts of the spectrum, it can blend them in a way that makes sense. Red and yellow can move toward orange. Yellow and blue can move toward green. The spectrum has an order. Your brain likes order. It has a whole operation going. But red and violet are not neighbors on the line. They are the ends of the line. So when both signals arrive together, your brain has a problem. It gets red information, it gets violet-blue information. But there is no single wavelength between those two ends that explains the combination. Reality did not provide a neat answer, so your brain makes one. That answer is magenta. This is why Magenta often appears on a color wheel, even though it does not appear in the rainbow. A rainbow is the physical spectrum of visible light. A color wheel is more like a map of human perception, and those are not the same thing. That difference matters, because when people say magenta is not real, they are usually saying something half true in a very dramatic outfit. Magenta is real as an experience. You can see it, you can print it, you can put it on a shirt, you can paint a room with it if you are ready to explain yourself to guests. But magenta is not real as a single spectral wavelength, and it is not a basic piece of light sitting somewhere in the rainbow. It is a color your brain creates when it receives certain mixed signals. So the better sentence is not magenta does not exist. The better sentence is this: magenta does not exist in the spectrum the way red or green does. It exists in you, which is somehow less fake and more unsettling. Because now the question is not, is magenta real? The question is, how much of what I see is my brain finishing for me? Your eyes do not send your brain a perfect movie. They send signals. Your brain turns those signals into a world. It fills in gaps, it smooths edges, it balances colors, it guesses what things are based on memory, context, lighting, shadow, expectation, and experience. Most of the time, this works beautifully. You do not have to walk around calculating wavelengths. You just see a red apple. You see green grass. You see a blue sky. You see a magenta sign and think, that business spent money on branding. Your brain handles the rest. Quietly, constantly, without asking permission. And color is one of the clearest examples of this, because color feels like it belongs to the object. A banana looks yellow, so we say the banana is yellow. But what is really happening is that light hits the banana, certain wavelengths bounce off, those wavelengths enter your eye, your cones respond, your brain compares the signals, and then you experience yellow. The yellow's not painted onto reality in the way it feels. The yellow is your nervous system's answer to light. That is not poetic. That is just vision being weirdly committed to the bit. Now, take that idea back to magenta. Magenta is not a mistake. It is not a glitch. It is your brain doing what it always does, turning messy information into a clean experience. The only reason magenta feels special is because we caught the brain in the act. Most of the time, it gets away with this. This is where the story stops being about one color, because magenta is not just a fun fact about the rainbow. It is a small reminder that seeing is not as simple as opening your eyes. Your brain is always involved, not as a passive witness. As a builder, it takes light, memory, contrast, shadow, and context, then gives you something you can actually use. That does not mean the world is fake. The table is still there. The sun is still there. The flower is still there. Please do not walk into traffic because a YouTube video got philosophical for 12 seconds. But it does mean your experience of the world is edited before you ever notice it. And honestly, that edit is useful. If your brain showed you raw light data instead of objects' depth, color, and motion, daily life would become a very complicated group project with your nervous system. So your brain simplifies, it predicts, it fills in, it makes the world usable. And every once in a while, it does something so obvious that we can point to it. Like magenta. Physics gives your brain red. Physics gives your brain violet. The spectrum does not connect them, so your brain connects them anyway. And somehow, out of that missing piece, we got flowers, signs, clothes, art, makeup, logos, and a color so normal, most people never question it. Not bad for a color that never had a wavelength. So yes, magenta is real. Just not in the way you thought. It is not hiding in the rainbow. It is hiding in the space between light and your brain. Reality left a gap. Your brain colored it in. Weirdly true. Weirdly sketchy.